Guys, I think they forgot to tell the designer for this that this thing was meant as a kid's toy.
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
To be fair though, I think I'd eventually flip too if my name started with Dork. So from here on out, I'll be calling this little bot what it was called in the English anime, Rocks. A cool name for a cool Medabot that was provided to me by my favorite online hobby store, Hobbyling Japan. Links to my own Rocks down below. And with proportions like this, you're definitely gonna want to do that. Just ignore that seam line on the arms that I couldn't close no matter what. Fortunately, the other ones do blend in way better. What I can't unsee though are those eyes. And depending on which visor option you go for, they get way worse or slightly better. So if you want to go for a less crazy look, you can just put a piece of paper behind the visor, which is what I did with most of my other Kotobukiya Medabots kits. You know, I prefer not to have my model kits look at me with murderous intent, but don't worry if this thing suddenly does become alive, because the double ball joints of the neck disconnect super easily, and the same goes for the ball joints of the antennae and the shoulders. A true glass cannon. But unlike older Medabots kits, not all of the ball joints are this weak. Kotobukiya actually used a new construction technique so that the ball joints are now jammed into some of the parts. So if you somehow manage to disconnect these, that's on you. Other moving things then are these things on top of the shoulders and the hands that are on okay ball joints. Going a bit lower then, we get to the business ends of this thing, where you have the choice between either a serrated combat knife.
Did you notch this bayonet?
Yes, sir.
Sonny, if the enemy ever caught you at this, they wouldn't kill you. They'd plump your eyes out, fill them full of sawdust. Nobody uses these things anymore.
Or a POW hammer that looks like it couldn't even hurt a fly. Talk about sending mixed messages. But if you want to make sure that your target, I mean your sporting opponent, gets the message, you could equip your rocks with 2 serrated knives if you get 2 of the kit, because the holes on both arms are the same. So at least we can say that these do divert some of your attention away from the aforementioned seam line. On the back then, we get a feature that I absolutely love. An opening hatch that reveals a tiny little medal inside, just like the anime. The only way they could have made this even cooler is if we also got a sticker for the medal to make it 100% anime and game accurate. But back to the articulation. On the waist we get another very well connected double ball joint, but just because it's hard to snap in 2, doesn't mean everything is fine either. And if my Rakusho is anything to go by, this is only going to get worse. Yeesh. So quickly moving on to the legs that have only minimal seam lines, quite nice color separation, and significantly better articulation. They'll rotate at the hips, bend at the knees on 2 ball joints for a little over 90 degrees, and they are both sturdy and won't pop out, unlike the ball joints of the feet. We again have a double ball joint here that will allow the feet to go backwards as far as they can until the top one pops out. Of course, they'll also give you some limited rotation and side-to-side movement. What's way more impressive then is the toe and ankle movement, and the ball joints for these are just like those on the knee. They're sturdy and they don't disconnect. And the same goes for the ball joints used to connect the legs to the body. It's not going anywhere and gives the legs some really good flexibility. Although most of this is thanks to the design of the Medabot itself. But hey, all things considered, I was actually pretty impressed with how well I could see the effort that Kotobukiya put into upgrading their Medabots kits. It's not perfect yet, but when I look at how far they've gotten, it's definitely promising for the future. And before I forget, the only painting you have to do is red on the indents of the antennae and dark gray or black for the indents of the weapons. So now, let's have a look at the accessories that this thing comes with. For the hands, we get a choice between closed fists, open hands, or grabby hands. There is an action-based connector that attaches to his derriere, so you can make some really cool jumping poses. You get this piece of cardboard with various quotes and a target that you can then cut out and connect to this stand, which is delightfully in the shape of Roxas metal. And there is also a Blanco speech bubble where we can write whatever we want. There's this rod to help you with building the kit, and then finally we also get these parts for the transformation, or as they call it, the meta change. Roll that montage. And well, I don't think I'm ever going to be doing that transformation again. It might look somewhat nice, and it's also not all that difficult to do, but it definitely makes rocks feel way more fragile, like a bug. So I guess in that sense, it is somewhat accurate. Anyways, the one part that I really don't like is how they require you to bend the feet backwards. You know, the movement that I just told you would dislocate the feet, so now they're just rattling around back there. Great. We do fortunately get a second Kuwagata beetle to serve as a support, so at least when you just have it sitting there, it is secure. So as always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And well, despite all of the bad things that I've said about this kit, it is actually a pretty good Medabots kit. Unless you really care a lot about those action features of previous Medabots kits, like Medabot being able to shoot bullets, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that this might just be the best Medabots kit to date. It's way sturdier, looks absolutely badass, and for the most part, the transformation does work well. So at 4,800 yen, it might also be one of the more expensive Medabots kits out there, but not without a good reason. For some size comparisons then, here he is again next to Rakusho and his best buddy Saikachis, also known as Medabot in the anime. And then finally, here he is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. And I wouldn't be surprised that you were surprised at how big this thing actually is. The proportions with the big head make it look quite small when it's on its own, but now, as you can see, in total it's actually bigger than the Zaku 3. But that has been all for this review with a somewhat different format than usual. A format that I'm going to try to refine over the next few videos, so feel free to leave your feedback on it down below. And down below you will also find a link to buy this amazing Medabot for yourself. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.